Alright folks, this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. There's some things you need to establish when you're studying the Bible. When you're studying the Bible is written past, present, and future. It's written in the past tense, the present tense, and the future. When God was dealing with somebody like he was dealing with Abraham, when Abraham first come on the scene, his name was Abram. And then we got a little bit, God gave him several promises. And he promised seed to Abraham from his first beginning, which he was the, let's see, what was he in the government? He was ending the third dispensation. And the fourth dispensation was when Abraham came up in the Abrahamic covenant. God made a covenant with this man Abraham. Now we were following the covenants through, and we've been following through like the father of all men and the woman of all women, which was Adam and Eve. And then we came on through, and then after the flood we started out again. We started out with Noah and his 3 sons, and then they started a new line of people, or a different line. They were the same people, but a different line. And so they had progressed up to here, and they started all over again. And whatever Ham, Shem, and Japheth knew about planting and plowing and raising a garden and tending animals, and whatever they knew, they passed on to their children. So if anything at all came out of it as concerning the word, the bad word, evolution, it wasn't evolution, but it was knowledge. It was knowledge. And that knowledge is not evolution. It's not evolution to take knowledge, learn how to plant collards, learn how to grow collards, and learn what not to do and what to do. And then when your children come along, you teach them exactly how to plant a collard, what time of the year to plant it, and everything. And here's these collards that are nice and big, and they grew fast and everything. That has nothing to do with evolution. That has to do with knowledge of learning how to make those, what time of the year to plant them, and learning what God already knows. And you need to have it. You need the early rain, the middle rain, the latter rain. And there's a lot of things that you need to grow a garden. And you got to know when to put that garden in, what month to put it in, how to hoe it, how to tend it, and how to follow through with it. But then you had the judgments ending on the third dispensation of human government, which was the time of the fall of man and the failure of man. Let's see what Nimrod did. Remember in the last excerpt we did, we talked about this. Nimrod was a great hunter of men, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto the heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the whole face of the earth. Which is exactly what God's plan was that they did be scattered across the whole earth. But this Nimrod, he was against the Lord. And you know what's funny? If you'll go up a few years, which we're going to do eventually, to where they made the golden calf. Moses was on the day gone 40 days and 40 nights. During that period of time, they got in such a hurry to have a God to worship that very shortly they brought all the gold over there, threw it in a pile, made a quick fire, smelted it quickly, formed a golden calf, cooled it quickly, and had it setting up so that in 40 days when Moses came down, there it was, and they were all naked, running around naked, worshiping that golden calf, and they did it in a hurry. If you'll ever notice, man has always hurried when he was in rebellion. Now this is the first time that it's mentioned that they burn brick. Brick were always baked in the sun. They were made of earth and slime. They were formed in wooden boxes. The wooden boxes were taken off, the brick laid there, and the sun baked them, and they were hard as rock. You couldn't get rid of one after you made it. But now they were going to do something. They were going to make a kiln, and they were going to bake the brick fast so they could build a quick city. So here they were building a quick city. By the way, if you'll study that, you'll find that thing was about 6 chariots across it. 6 chariots and horses could ride around the top of it across it. And when it talked about reaching up into the heavens, what it was, they were only going to make it a certain amount of height, but it was going to reach up to the sky. And if you've got a good Bible, like I've got a good study Bible here, what they were implying here, when they were implying reaching to the sky, is this city was going to have on it, all over it, was going to have jeweled type things like sun gods, star gods, moon gods. It was going to be a worship of the heavens there. If you please, it was going to be one of the first times that they used not just an almanac of stars and everything, but an almanac that would become satanic. And it would be a worship of the planets and a worship of Mars and Jupiter, and they would start giving God's names to those constellations. And by the way, that is in the Bible. Judgment was ending now on the third dispensation of human government, and the Lord came down. See the city and the tower which the children of men had builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will restrain from them which they have imagined to do. Now, I'm going to show you something right here. Verse 7. Look at it in chapter 11. Go to. Look what he says here. Go to. Let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Now he's talking to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost are conversing. And they're saying, we, not just God by himself, but all three of the Godhead, we are going down and we're going to confuse their languages, and we're going to give them a diversity where they cannot understand each other. Verse 8, so the Lord scattered them abroad. Now, who scattered them? The Lord scattered them abroad on the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of the earth. And that's where the word Babel comes from. The word Babel means confusion. And the author of confusion, the Bible said, is the devil. He is the author of confusion. So, these are the generations of Shem. Was 100 years old and begat Aphex 2 years after the flood. Now Shem was 100 years old when he began a son. So he hadn't had a son until he was 100 years old. But after he was 100, he started having children. Then he had many children. And this Aphex, he lived 438 years. But you see, after the Tower of Babel, God was going to separate himself for some years from the people there. Or he said he was going to give them a 400-year sabbatical, which he did. And that was between